Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Homage to our teacher, Most Venerable Pinnathalakshan Mahanse. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear Dhamma friends, now Buddha explained, our teacher, Supreme Buddha explained, because when we live, we have a distorted perception, right? What is the meaning of a distorted perception? Inverted perception, right? So actually, we don't see the reality. When we perceive the things, we don't see the real way. So we see that foulness things as beautiful, right? We think that sorrowful things as happy things. Okay. So we see impermanent things as permanent, and we see non-self things as self, right? So this kind of mainly four types of uh, inverted perception we have, right? So then when we practice that the meditation, we can change into reality. Somebody can see that they can somebody change into real way the perception. They can understand uh, the real way exactly what they said. Now, now today we are going to discuss some kind of perception, right? So, some sutta in Anguttara Nikaya. That's also a very important sutta. Uh, that is called perception, right? So, in Pali, it is called the that in detail the perception in detail, right? Um, It is in Anguttara Nikaya, 49, book number 7. So let me share with you this sutta while I am saying to you, right? Hope you can see this one, right? To explain, uh, so because these seven perceptions, when developed and cultivated, are of great fruit and benefit. Is seven perception, right? Uh, Culminating in the deathless, having the deathless as their consummation. What seven? The perception of unattractiveness. What is it mean? In Pali word? The perception of unattractiveness, the foulness of the body. Asubha, right? The perception of death. Marnanusatiya. Okay. And next one is the perception of repulsiveness of food. Ahare patikula sanya. The perception of non-delight in the entire world, right? So, and sabbaloke anabhirata sanya, the perception of impermanence, anitya, the perception of suffering in impermanent, anitya dukkha sanya, the perception of non-self in what is suffering. So, dukkhe anatma sanya. So, these are the seven perceptions Buddha is going to explain in this sutta, right? So, what are the seven things? The perception of unattractiveness, then after that, perception of repulsion of food, the perception of non-delight in the entire world, sabbaloki anibhita sanya, the perception of impermanence, perception of suffering in the impermanent, and perception of non-self in what is suffering, right? And or Varnanussati, and perception of death, right? So if you go to other side, so the perception of death as well, right? What are the importance of thinking in this perception? So Buddha explained here as the first one. Okay, this it was said the perception of unattractiveness, which help to overcome our sensual desire, because when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in deathless, having the deathless as its consummation. For what reason for was this said, and why this Buddha is saying this one? So when a bhikkhu, often let's say that somebody is practicing foundness of the body meditation, right? How he finds or monks or nun, they can find that if it is developed or not developed, right? It explains how we find that this is, let's say that we are keep on practicing this meditation, right? So foundness of the body meditation, how we find that is developed or not. Buddha explain here, when bhikkhu often develops with a mind accustomed to the perception of unattractiveness, his mind shrinks away from sexual intercourse, right? And turns back from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn towards it. That's what happened. Somebody is practicing uh, found of the body meditation, and either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him. So, in his mind, when he practicing, uh, um, foulness of the body, meditation or perception of unattractiveness or body parts meditation. So, what will happen? His mind does not go to that all the sensual desire, right? It goes away from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn towards it. Either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him. So it is established in him, even it develops. Just as cock's feather or strip or sinew thrown into fire, what will happen? Right? Shrinks away from it, turns back from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn towards it. So it is in regard to sexual intercourse when bhikkhu often dwells. What happened when bhikkhu often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of unattractiveness. So this is the way we can find, right? So if somebody is developing that foulness of the body meditation, right? So Buddha explained here, and sometimes that even though some people they practice the meditation, it doesn't develop, right? How we can practice the foulness of the body meditation? First of all, we see our own body, right? The unattractive nature of our own body. Then after that, we compare with all those things with other bodies. Okay. So, and after that, we see that our body and my body and other bodies are the same nature, right? So, and when we try to develop this meditation from try to see the foulness of other bodies, it doesn't develop. So that's why Buddha explained. So try to see your own body, then after that, develop to other bodies, right? So, and I know that someone was trying to practice this foulness of the body because when he goes out, even he saw the nice, beautiful forms, right? So he was trying to develop foulness of the body of others, right? So what happened? He develops the Subha Sanya instead of Asubha Sanya. So therefore, we have to as per Buddha's advice, we have to develop the Asubha Sanya to ourselves, right? So, and then after that, we bring that to see the others, right, with that knowledge, the same nature. right? So, and Buddha explained, if when bhikkhu often dwells with the mind accustomed to the perception of unattractiveness, right? How we practice that this meditation, right? Uh, Kesa, Loma, Naka, Danta, Tacho, right? Body hair, head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, and then after that, blood vessels, flesh, bones, bone marrow, kidneys, and heart, and liver, gallbladder, spleen, and lungs, small intestines, large intestines, stomach, feces, brain, then after that, bile, phlegm, and pus, blood, sweat, and fat, tears, grease, then after that, sweat, and snot, oil of the joints, grease. All these 32 impurities in the body we are going to observe. Okay. Now, sometimes some people practice this one. Uh, these this unattractiveness, perception of unattractiveness does not develop within themselves, right? So because either they did not practice enough, or they didn't need to practice more, or they did the wrong way, right? Then Buddha explain here, when bhikkhu often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of unattractiveness, his mind inclines to sexual intercourse, or he does not turn away from it. Okay, he should understand, I have not developed the perception of unattractiveness. There is no distinction between my early condition and my present condition. That means before he starts the meditation, so in some condition your mind is there. So after practicing, so the present condition does not change, right? So then you have to either it is not enough uh, practice, or either you did some wrong way, right? So or your own way, not the way with the advice. So I have not attained the fruit of development. Thus he clearly comprehends this. But if, when he often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of unattractiveness, his mind shrinks away from sexual intercourse, and either equanimity or revulsion become settled in. He should understand, I have developed the perception of unattractiveness. There is distinction between my earlier condition and my present one. I have attained the fruit of development. Thus, he clearly comprehends this, right? So when you see that this meditation, what is the meditation? Founders of the body meditation always compare with the previous stage. If there's no change, that means you haven't practiced enough, or you have to practice more, right? So let's say that you practice same like that advice. So if you still you don't see that, maybe you need more practice. Okay. So to explain here. So when it was said, the perception of unattractiveness, because when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in the deathless, having the deathless as its consummation. It is because of this that this was said, right? Somebody develops, so it is great help, and he can or she can be they can be enlightened by practicing this perception of unattractiveness, right? This is the first perception. Okay. Now, second one, would they explain?
It was said the perception of death, bhikkhus, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in deathlessness, having the deathless as its consummation. For what reason was this said? When a bhikkhu often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of death, his mind shrinks away from attachment to life, turns back from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn toward it. And either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him, just as a cock's feather or a strip of sinew, when thrown into a fire, shrinks away from it turns back from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn toward it, so it is in regard to attachment to life when a bhikkhu often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of death.
So somebody is practicing perception of death. How we can develop that meditation, perception of death? So we always observe that there's a possibility to die, right? So that's a perception of death. There's a possibility someone die when they are in the womb, even that when they were born, there's possibility uh, people may die, and when they are small, when they are as a kid and teenage or the middle age, or that uh, when they are old age, there's a possibility they may die. That there's no time differences, and there's a possibility people die in the morning time, afternoon time, evening time, and there's no time difference for the death. And there's a possibility that there's no personal differences for the death. Maybe some rich people, poor people, and also educated people, uneducated people, and also high-born, low-born people. So there's no personal differences, right? Uh, also there's a possibility that because of the sickness, like kind of a heart attack or kidney diseases or something like that, or that like COVID, there's a possibility all these kind of diseases spread, and there's a possibility people die because of the flooding and fire or any other kind of natural disasters. There's a possibility, and so because of the organ failure, there's a possibility people I may die. You compare that all the possibilities that to die, all the Buddhas that became attain Parinibbana, and all the not Pacceka Buddhas attain Parinibbana, all the enlightened monks that attain Parinibbana, and all the non-returners, they passed away, and all the other people, those who achieved the level, they passed away. Nobody can avoid. Therefore, you develop that, that urgency, uh, develop this dhamma, right? So develop in your life. So there are so many types of possibility, so many ways, so many possibilities that we may die in that no time. Okay, so then when somebody is developing that way, that perception of death, so what will happen? Um, again, is uh, for attachment to life, turn back from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn towards it. And either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him. So somebody is developing perception of death, right? If it is not, then okay. And Buddha explained if it is not.
If, when a bhikkhu often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of death, his mind inclines to attachment to life, or if he does not turn away from it, he should understand, I have not developed the perception of death. There is no distinction between my earlier condition and my present one. I have not attained the fruit of development. Thus he clearly comprehends this. But if, when he often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of death, his mind shrinks away from attachment to life, and either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him, he should understand, I have developed the perception of death. There is a distinction between my earlier condition and my present one. I have attained the fruit of development. Thus he clearly comprehends this. When it was said, the perception of death, bhikkhus, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, the culminating in the deathless, having the deathless as its consummation. It is because of this that this was said.
Yeah, that's the great benefit that somebody is practicing uh, perception of death meditation. So there was a nice Jataka story about that Uraga Jataka, right? So Uraga Jataka is actually what is that? Uraga Jataka means that the worn out skin. That's Jataka. So in the Jataka story, what is the Jataka story? That was the Jataka story. What is that called Jataka story? That's a Buddha's teaching about his previous life, right? And so this Jataka story explains that one time Buddha was born into a Brahmin family. So, and he got married to one woman, and also they got son, and son got married to another woman, and they have another daughter, and they have servants. Altogether, then how many people? Five people. Because the Bodhisattva was in Brahmin, and he has a wife. They have son, and son has wife, and also they have servants. All they are five. Then that time, Bodhisattva advised everyone to follow the meditation on perception of death meditation. And they practice generosity, and they practice sila, the virtuous, five precepts, and also post the day they observe it. Precepts. And in addition to that, they practice samadhi, which is perception of death, right? Then their son born. Then one day, this Brahmin and his son went to the field because they are doing farming. While the father was farming in the field, the son came out from the field, and he want to put the fire. He collected fire, some wood. He put the fire there, and when he put the fire, there was an ant hill. In that ant hill, there was that cobra, and because of that heavy, strong smoke, the cobra couldn't stay in the ant hill. He came out, and he came out. He attacked. So that the snake attacked, the cobra attacked to the boy. The boy died at same place because of his, that the poisons everywhere in his very small period of time. Then father came to know that he heard the sound. He stopped his work and he came back. When he was coming, you know, the son was dead, died already. So he saw that he thought, okay, so I cannot save him, and I then upon no point of crying or anything because this is the way of life. He brought his body and put into the root of the tree, and he closed using his cloth. And when he started to work, then closer to the lunchtime, he sent the message from the neighbor. Uh, so tell family and don't bring two lunch packets. Only one lunch packet they can bring. But when they come, they they dress that clean cloth and bring some flowers as well. Then he sent the message to his wife. So wife was thinking, and he was thinking. As he was thinking, he thought, okay, then there's a possibility that my son died. They came with that to the field where they were doing harvesting, and everybody found that their son is dead, died. Nobody cried. Nobody cried. Then the farmer, his father, he had his lunch by sitting uh, beside the dead body. Then after that, they prepared the funeral fire, and they put the body, and they start to uh, they start to burn the body, right? That time, King Sakka, the King Sakka in the heavenly world, King Sakka, his throne was hot. He saw that somebody is developing any virtuous behavior than me to take my position. He saw that time he saw that because of their way of their virtues and the way of their practicing perception of death, and he decided to come and ask the question. Okay, He he descended from the heavenly world. He came and asked the questions, right? So he asked this way. It's very good information. The importance of practicing that perception of death, right? He descended from heavenly world. He asked here. Um, he asked that what you are doing that. Then the Brahmin said, now he's put in the fire that his son's body was on the funeral fire. But nobody was crying. Nobody has any sadness, right? Now the way that he's going to ask that Saka is going to ask the questions. He was asking, um, so that Brahmin was saying, we are cremating the body of a man. My lord answered the farmer. When Saka asked, farmer replied, so we are cremating the body of a man. Then Saka said, that cannot be a man that you are burning. I suspect you are roasting the flesh of some beast or deer you have slain. Right? So that time Brahman said, not so, my lord. They replied in unison, this is the body of a man. So he must have been an enemy. So he must be enemy of you. Sakari remarked, Saka said, right? No, my lord, not an enemy, the farmer said. He was my own son. Okay. Uh, so then he said, maybe this son could not have been very dear to you. Maybe he's not very loving. But farmer said, he was much beloved, my lord. Then King Saka asked, if that is so, why aren't you weeping? Why you are not sad? Okay. The farmer replied calmly, even man abandons his body much as a snake casts off its worn out skin. Right. So same like he gave up his body. Right. No lamentation can touch one who has died. Why should I grieve? Farmer said. Okay. He ferries along the path he had to tread. The sucker turned to the wife and asked. Then after that, after he got this reply, sucker turned into his wife, asked, dear lady, what was this dead man to you? Uh, I carried him for 10 months in my womb and nursed him at my breast. I rejoiced when he learned to walk and talk. He was my only son, my lord. He was my only son. Okay. I grant you that. So then King Saka said, I grant you that a father being a man may not weep, but surely mother's heart is soft and tender. Why aren't you weeping? Because mother also, there's no sad, because they are not weeping. She replied calmly, uninvited he came. How he came to his home? Uninvited he came, and uninvited he went. He died without any invitation. Then what cause is there for tears? No lamentation can touch one who has died. Why should I grieve? Okay. He ferries along the path he had tread. The sucker turned to the farmer's daughter and asked, so, miss, what was this dead man to you? And he was my brother, my lord. Sisters are usually loving towards their brothers. Why aren't you weeping? Asked from the sister, because sister also there's no sad. So she asked. The young girl replied calmly, I could fast and weep for my brother, but what profit would that bring? That would only make my family suffer more. No lamentation can touch one who has died. Why should I grieve? He fares along the path he had to tread. Then Sakka turned to the farmer's daughter-in-law and asked, Lady, what was this dead man to you? Who, what is your relation to the dead man? He was my husband, my lord. When a husband dies, the widow is pitiful and helpless, right? Why aren't you weeping? The young woman replied calmly, and she also doesn't have any, pain or sadness. As children cry in vain to grasp the moon, mortals mourn in vain when those they love are gone. No lamentation can touch one who has died. Why should I grieve? He fathers along the path he had to tread. Then Sakka turned to the maid and asked their servant, Lady, Lady, what was this dead man to you? He was my master, my lord. Right? He must have so abused you and beaten you that you are glad that he is dead. Don't say that, my lord. I will not hear you speak ill of him. Don't say that. And my young master was full of kindness and affection for me. He was like son to me. Okay. If that is so, why aren't you weeping? The maid replied calmly, just as none can piece together again a smashed pot. One mourns the dead in vain. Even those who have psychic powers, if they can make the using psychic powers the smashed pot into the real way, but no one can give the death, right? No lamentation can touch one who has died. Why should I grieve? He fathers along the path he had to tread. So Sapka was really happy. He really pleased with that what they each had to say, uh, and wisely has this family reflected on death. So how they practice. Then Sakka filled with 7 types of gem in their house. They said, and no need to worry about the rest of your life. You don't have to work. Practice, practice generosity using that money of that jewel. So this is the way, and Buddha explained this one is the importance of practicing the meditation. This actually Buddha explained for someone who was weeping about his son died, and by listening to that one, that man, he gave up his sorrow. He became Sotapanna, right? That time, and the Buddha identified the birth at that time. So Kujutara, we must have heard about Kujutara was the maid, and Utpalavanna was the daughter, and Rahula was the son, Kema was the mother, and I was the farmer, would explain. So this kind of very important, the practicing the perception of the death, right? It is helpful, and all of them, after their death, they were born into heavenly world. So, and this also very important to understand them, right? When it also the perception of death, because when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in the deathless. And the deathless, as in the consummation, is because of this that this was said. Right? It's kind of very, very important practicing perception of death as well. Okay. So this is the second perception. And then after that, you go to the third one, right?
So it was said, the perception of the repulsiveness of food, because when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in the deathless. having the its consummation, having the deathless as its consummation. For what reason was this said? When a bhikkhu often when a bhikkhu often dwells with the mind accustomed to the perception of the repulsiveness of food, his mind shrinks away from craving for taste, turns back from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn toward it. And either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him, just as a cock's feather or a strip of sinew thrown into a fire shrinks away from it, turns back from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn toward it. So it is in regard to craving for taste when a bhikkhu often dwells
Okay.
with a mind accustomed to the perception of the repulsiveness of food. If, when a bhikkhu often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of the repulsiveness of food, his mind inclines to craving for taste, or if he does not turn away from them, he should understand, I have not developed the perception of the repulsiveness of food. There is no distinction between my earlier condition and my present one. I have not attained the fruit of development. Thus, he clearly comprehends this. But if, when he often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of repulsiveness of food, his mind shrinks away from craving for taste, and either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him, he should understand, I have developed the perception of the repulsiveness of food. There is a distinction between my earlier condition and my present one. I have attained the fruit of development. Thus, he clearly comprehends this. When it was said, the perception of the repulsiveness of food, because when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in the deathless, having the deathless as its consummation, it is said of this that this was said. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So, and how we develop that repulsiveness of food, right? So there's another meditation, so we can practice. Okay. How that we can think that so this food when you even though it is very when we see it is very beautiful and also the smell is good and when you touch that is good when as soon as we mix them it will happen is it will become this disgusting nature. So when you put into mouth, so it will mix with saliva, and when you swallow that, it will mix with snot and will go to the stomach. And is when you go to the stomach, it will be mixed with HCl, that all the acid that it will be a very disgusting thing. And after that, it will go as excrement, right? So this is the disgusting nature of the food. And they say that without eating, if we keep the food outside, after some time, it will be spoiled. Cannot use them anymore. So by thinking this way, that you can develop that uh, perception of repulsiveness of food, right? So if you attach the food, too much attachment, and we cannot understand the Dhamma, right? So and it explains here. So how if when a bhikkhu often dwells with the mind accustomed to the perception of repulsion of food, his mind inclines to craving for taste, or he does not turn away from them. He should understand I have not developed the perception of repulsion of food. Right? So, and it's another way that you can develop a way that you understand what is happening. That when you eat, you have a taste coming outside, and your tongue is there, then consciousness, you have the, you're developing the food, that you develop the consciousness of the tongue, then in the contact of the three, that your tongue, food, and consciousness, at the, contact of your tongue. And then after that, you get all the feeling and, perception and volitional formation and craving. Okay. So, and when you taste a food, that whatever the food, whatever the great food, when you are thinking in this world, it has only a few inches. Few inches you taste the food, right? After few inches, it's gone. What is that few inches? What is that few inches?
It would be why you're eating it.
Yeah, I mean that's why you're eating, and all the tastes only for this much, right? Up to your tongue, right? Few inches, and so all the taste. Then after that, can you feel the taste when you swallow it? No. And somehow you feel that very tasty food maybe you are eating, it's very tasty while you are eating. So when you go inside, somehow it came out. You like to take it? No, that we don't like to take it. This is the disgusting nature of food. But however we eat just to survive. That's why monks they always do the food perception of food meditation before we eat, right? So not for amusement, and when you eat it, that not for uh, not for physical beauty, just to follow our life, right? So without any hunger feeling, right? This kind of way of developing that, you know, uh, the perception of food, the repulsiveness of food. Okay, so that's a great explanation. We can go to great explanation, but with Nittipakarana that Mahagacchana Bhante explained that analyzing with the food and your taste, it will go to if you cannot remove that your attachment to food, I cannot go for understanding the reality of that understanding Dhamma, right? That's why Buddha explained here, right? So how you understand that you did not develop very well because you have a, that you have attachment to food, right? Some certain food you still like. Okay. So then that time you can understand, oh, I haven't developed the perception of repulsion of the food. Okay.
It was said the perception of non-delight in the entire world, bhikkhus, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in the deathless, having the deathless as its consummation. For what reason was this said? When a bhikkhu often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of non-delight in the entire world, his mind shrinks away from the world's beautiful things, turns back from them, rolls away from them, and is not drawn toward them. And either equanimity or revulsion becomes subtle in him. Just as a cock's feather or a strip of sinew thrown into a fire shrinks away from it, turns back from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn toward it. So it is in regard to the world's beautiful things when a bhikkhu often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of non-delight in the entire world. If, when a bhikkhu often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of non-delight in the entire world, his mind inclines to the world's beautiful things, or if he does not turn away from them, he should understand, I have not developed the perception of non-delight in the entire world. There is no distinction between my earlier condition and my present one. I have not attained the fruit of development. Thus, he clearly comprehends this. But if, when he often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of non-delight in the entire world, his mind shrinks away from the world's beautiful things, and either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him, he should understand I have developed the perception of non-delight in the entire world. There is a distinction between my earlier condition and my present one. I have attained the fruit of development. Thus, he clearly comprehends this. When it was said, the perception of non-delight in the entire world, bhikkhus, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in the deathless, having the deathless as its consummation. It is because of this that this was found.
Yeah, because this is called Sabbaloke Anabhirata Sanya, which is called that you do not touch to any world, right? So, in order to develop this perception, the perception of non-delight in the entire world, you know that how many types of world we have, right? So, in these world systems, there are 31 types, right? So, and you know that hell, animal world, ghost world, astral world, human world, then after that 6 heavenly world, and altogether 16 Brahma world worlds, then the four formless worlds, right? Altogether there are 31 worlds, right? So and so non-attachment to these worlds. What is the meditation to develop this perception? That is called you know, whatever the forms in the past, whatever the forms in the future, the present form, right? So and my form, outside form from ajatta, bahira, so outside from my body, and also gross form, subtle form, inferior and superior form, and the form that are far, form that are near. So all these types of form, not I am, not mine, not myself, all these forms are impermanent because they are condition of four great elements. So this is the way of the meditation. So in that way, it is included all these types of forms, right? Gross forms that we have, gross forms, subtle forms. There are some beings like ghosts and also uh, heavenly world, and they have subtle form. Then inferior, when we can compare with the heavenly beings, that their ghost forms are inferior, right? And superior, when we consider that Brahma world, their form is superior when we compare with the uh, uh, heavenly world forms, right? Therefore, by seeing this way, we know that all these forms are based on four great elements, therefore subject to change, the condition subject to change, therefore impermanent, and also non-self, not I am, not mine, not myself, and also feeling, right? So whatever the feeling in the past, the future feelings, and present feeling, my own feeling, or the feeling from outside, the gross feeling, then subtle feeling, inferior feeling, superior feeling, feeling that are far, feeling that are near, all these 11 types of way of feeling, and likewise feeling, perception, volitional formation, and consciousness, all these 11 ways, they are not I am, not mine, not myself. By thinking that way, can develop the perception of non-delight in the entire world, right? And either sensual world, or form world, or formless world, right? What are the sensual world, or the four types of hell, animal world, ghost world, and asura world, and human world, and heavenly world, right? 6 heavenly world. And form world is all the Brahma worlds, and formless world is Akasaññāyatana, Viññācaññāyatana, Akincaññāyatana, Nivsaññā, right? So the sphere of consciousness, infinite space, infinite consciousness, infinite space, and nothingness, neither perception nor non-perception worlds. It's a formless world. So he will escape from all these worlds when there's 11 types of way to see the 5 aggregates of clinging, the impermanent nature of 5 aggregates of clinging, right? All right, so that's the fourth, that's the fourth perception. Then next one.
It was said, the perception of impermanence, monks, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in the deathless, having the deathless as its consummation. For what reason was this said? When a monk often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of impermanence, his mind shrinks away from gain, honor, and praise, turns back from them, rolls away from them, and is not drawn toward them, and either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him, just as a cock's feather or a strip of sinew thrown into a fire shrinks away from it, turns back from it, rolls away from it, and is not drawn toward it. So it is in regard to gain, honor, and praise when a monk often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of impermanence. If, when a monk often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of impermanence, his mind inclines to gain, honor, and praise, or if he does not turn away from them, he should understand, I have not developed the perception of impermanence. There is no distinction between my earlier condition and my present one. I have not attained the fruit of development. Thus he clearly comprehends this. But if, when he often dwells with a mind accustomed to the perception of impermanence, his mind shrinks away from gain, honor, and praise, and either equanimity or revulsion becomes settled in him, he should understand, I have developed the perception of impermanence. There is a distinction between my earlier condition
Yes.
and my present one. I have attained the fruit of development. Thus he clearly comprehends this. When it was said, the perception of impermanence, monks, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and benefit, culminating in the deathless, having the deathless as its consummation. It is because of this that this was said. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Yeah. So, and impermanent. How we develop impermanent, perception of impermanence. That we can see that all the forms, feelings, perception, volitional formation, and consciousness, the impermanent nature, that all the forms is the uh, based on four great elements, or the feelings based on contact, and perception based on contact, volitional formation, condition of contact, and consciousness, condition of mentality and materiality. So when we see that all these impermanent nature, so what will happen? And everything is conditioned, is subject to change. His mind shrinks away from gain, honor, praise, and turn back from them. Right? So people likes usually that if they gain honor and respect, praise, so they rolls back from it. Right? So, and we can see that if somebody does not develop, so they like those things, right? So, and if we like, that means that we haven't developed those things. So, I think that next two things are also the same thing. Uh, so I will quickly go through those things, and this is a perception of suffering in the impermanent, right? If something is impermanent, it is suffering, right? So then somebody can settle that this one can read these two, and seventh one is what is that called? The perception of non-self is what is suffering, right? So, and also this all the conditioned thing, the impermanent, and also suffering, so non-self as well, right? So therefore, you can go through those things because we don't have enough time to complete and go through in the with the sutta. And I'll give you the chance to ask some questions for um, the things that we discussed so far. Anything unclear, right?
But But not a question, but just a reflection. I think Buddha told us all of this perceptions, which is really, really very enlightening for us. The only problem is the external world. I mean, let's say uh, 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 the external media, or let's say everybody always wants to give you advertisements saying that, oh, uh, you have to think about food, the best food. You always have to think about the beauty of the world, tourism, travel. They encourage you to be more beautiful, skin beautiful. You have to live longer and do not die. So what I'm saying, Bante, is that it's it's the external world trying to encourage you, but Buddha is telling us this: if you deal with what the others are telling you, then there is no happiness, because all of these are suffering in the end, and it's a misperception, right, Bante?
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to die soon, right? So
Yes.
don't take it that, that don't try to suicide or anything that, so that is mean that, that sometimes people think that they don't die. So, that you must have heard about the story of Alexander, right? Alexander, and he invaded all the four countries, and he came all the way to the India, and eventually we know what happened to him. So he got sick and he was on deathbed, and he he asked to put his last will, the four things: put his hands out of his body, the coffin, and also asked all the four countries, the great doctors, to carry his coffin. And the third one, put all his wealth, all the jewels, and also up to his burial ground, right? Um, so, and all those things, right? So, and just to, so they asked why. So he said, even though I'm the great king, but when I die, so I did not bring anything, because I'm going with an empty hand. And why that, the great doctors, even though they are so great, and they cannot stop death, and they put that, why he put all the wealth up to his the burial ground, because even though he had so much of wealth, he cannot bring anything with him, right? That's what he wanted to give the message to the world. Okay, so now uh, there's another story behind this one, because he met a monk and he became uh, Buddhist. So he came back, he wanted to spread Buddhism, and he said, I want to teach all my countries the Buddhism, and eventually he died very fast, right? That's why he did, because even though uh, we cannot we should have that understanding of that we cannot stop the death. And so it's okay to eat the food, whatever you want to eat, but still we understand the real nature of this world, right? So, and only that, remember, so whatever the tasty food, only for this amount, like 2 inches, right? After 2 inch, everything is gone. Also, the perception of death and perception of the foulness of the body, right? That, that world is going somewhere else, right? World is that TV will tell you that many things. Buy this one and this one, that one, and eat this one, that one, and so yeah.